Welcome to Books and Things with Tom. And I hope everybody had a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Excuse me, I'm going to be doing this a lot because I'm just getting over a cold. And I got bronchial now. Anyway, this is my first show this year. And matter of fact, the last 3 weeks we weren't on. And my guest tonight has been on the show before. As a matter of fact, you might recognize her because she has her own TV show called Community Culture Showcase. And today, Harriet Grayson is talking about her new book and the great detective that she's got in the book. So, welcome, Harriet.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you for coming on.
It's always a pleasure to be here and chat with you.
Well, you know, we see each other a lot.
Yes, we do.
We're both members of Kappa. And tell me, why don't you start telling me about your show?
Okay, all right. So I have a show called Community Culture Showcase. And the idea behind it is similar to what yours is, and that is to promote the little groups out there who need some exposure, because we have lots of wonderful organizations out there, artists, poets, painters, all kinds of people, and little groups that they belong to, so that it's really important for them to get a little exposure. And so that's the idea behind my show.
So we're basically doing the same thing I'm doing with authors and other people of interest. And I think it's very important, because otherwise these people just get in the dust and get lost.
Exactly.
And I think it's important to get it out to people, let them know that these people are available.
Exactly.
Like you with your book.
Exactly.
Otherwise, nobody's going to know about that book.
Yes, exactly right, exactly right. And of course, what's really exciting for the next year is that they've taken it and put it onto YouTube.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now this show, my show,
Yep.
past shows are going to be available for people anywhere in the world.
Yep.
All they need is a computer, and they can get online and check out the studio. And once you check out the studio, you can see some of our
And
YouTubes.
I think it's YouTube SEC TV
Okay.
is the place you go to. And you'll see, I think they've got 10 of them on there so
Right,
far.
right, with expectations to do a lot
Yeah.
more.
But it takes some time to put them on, so.
Right,
And it's a great thing, because I've had so many people say, gee, aren't you on YouTube? I don't know how to do it.
right, exactly,
But
exactly.
it's a lot of work. But I think it's going to be nice to have that. Maybe we'll get this one on YouTube.
Yes, I'd be very
talk to Frank
excited about
tomorrow.
that. Yes, exactly. So I have, my life is an alter ego. So I have Harriet Grayson, who is me, and who does the Community Culture Showcase.
Yeah.
And also I do, conduct lots of seminars and stuff. But this is my alter ego. So my alter ego, and I write on the pen name, is Anastasia Goodman. And Anastasia Goodman, I use Anastasia because the characters, a lot of them are Russian. And Goodman happens to be my maiden name. So I created this character called Sasha Pearl.
Why Russia?
I don't know. I think I was kind of fascinated by it, and I have worked with a lot of Russian people who come to the United States, and I'm really always very interested in immigrant stories, because people come to the United States from all over the world, and they still love to come here, and they kind of remake themselves, and that's the kind of overhanging theme that I have. You come to America, and you can recreate yourself. And since I was familiar with people, certainly starting in the late 70s into the 80s, and even now, Russians coming to the United States, and that's what they do. So they sort of remake themselves. So that was the kind of my overriding theme, is that you come here and you can be anything you want to be.
Yeah.
And so I create this Sasha Perloff, and he changed his name. His name is now Sasha, which is a nickname.
Okay.
Perloff was his name. And he comes to America, and he came here as a teenager. And he becomes first he joins the military, and then he becomes a city cop. And I think that's, has nothing to do with timing. It's just one of the things that I created about him, is that he tries to always connect with his community. So his community is two different kinds of communities. One is the Russian community, living in primarily Brighton Beach. And other parts of Brooklyn, and then the black community, which is in Coney Island, which is part of his precinct where he does his patrolling. And so there's that very interesting, different kinds of community, and they clash together. And that part of some of the mystery, some of the cases he's involved in, is these clash between white and black people. And I think when you think of, I am not a New York City native, but I lived many years in New York City, is that people think, oh, it's a big melting pot. Well, it is, except that people don't necessarily get along. Just because they're there doesn't mean they get along. So there's all these little enclaves, and there's all that kind of simmering clashes that goes on. And I think it's, you look at the paper, of course, it's electrified by what happened with those two policemen who were assassinated.
That was horrible.
And so if you want to get a sense, and I think Sasha is a positive kind of reinforcement of what cops really do. And it's a dangerous job. And they are there to serve and protect, and he talks about that all the time. My job is to serve and protect. Yep. And people, when they need them, they need them. The rest of the time, we don't think about them. So I give a sympathetic kind of outlook about being a cop, especially in a city of New York. And the first book was Loose Ends. That was the introduction, and they're all Sasha Pearl novels. So this is Loose Ends, a Sasha Pearl novel. And I begin with always with a kind of a murder, or it looks like somebody's dead, and what's it all about? Yeah. So and he's always called to the case if they involve Russian or Russian Americans, because they don't always speak English well, and so he goes there, and he's the translator, he's the communicator, he's the one who steers people. So that was the beginning of the series, and then my newest one is Terror in Brooklyn. And this one goes where his case is a Russian is walking on the streets of Brooklyn. He's a jeweler, and he's murdered on the street. And so Sasha's called in because his wife doesn't really speak good English. And then that explodes into kind of like an international intrigue. It talks about go to Jerusalem there, and a whole bunch of stuff about the Middle East, and Middle East politics is part of this look. So that's that, and I'm going to have another one out. I don't know whether it'll be this year or not. It's also going to fall again. It's always the story about Sasha and his exploits.
I don't see you killing people, but obviously you can.
Yes. I'm a murderer underneath it all.
Now, it's Rick Costa?
Yes.
Rick Costa was nice enough to put a picture in Daybreak on the day.
Yes.
And there's the book.
Yes.
That's a big deal.
It is.
Now, he didn't review it, but he just put it up there.
He did. Now, he's been very kind to me. When Loose Ends came out, he also didn't do it as with so much splash, but he also put a little thing in his. And he's I gotta say, he's a wonderful asset for the community, because he's out there plugging stuff that goes on in the community. Both, he's the arts guy with. There's another woman who also writes with the arts, but he does movies and artists and all kinds of people. He's really very, very helpful. The other person who's been helpful to me in terms of they've given me really good reviews has been Roger Zadi, who's at The Resident, which is again a local paper, and he's given me a lot of support as well. Yeah. He actually doesn't know that Harriet Grayson is Anastasia Goodman, which is better, because I'd like him that way. He impartially reviews my books, and he has no connection to me. So which is great. Costa, I'm not sure actually knows Anastasia Goodman. He actually writes it as I author under Harriet Grayson's Ocean Breeze Press, which is a company I created to not only to do my work. But to do other writers as well, to create an independent kind of publishing company, and I've been able to do that. And I don't have a lot of artists, but I'm looking to get more titles. Yeah,
Roger Zadi did my first book.
Yes.
My son Toddy did that in The Resident also. And that was 11 years ago.
Right. He's been doing it for a long time. Yeah, definitely.
Roger's a nice guy.
He is, definitely. And what I've done is, trying to use new technology. So I've created a website. I have trying to use social media as best I can. So I have Anastasia Goodman actually has a website, and you can go to it. It's AnastasiaGoodman.weebly.com, and there it is. And that offers an opportunity. You can actually order the books from that website. You can read the reviews, Zadi's reviews. You can find out more about the characters. And I'm always looking for book clubs or organizations that want to have the writer come and talk to the audience. Potentially people buy the book. You know, obviously there's no cost involved or anything like that. It's just a way for me to get out there and get to the public. Because I think people will enjoy these books. I really think that you'll have a fun read. It's, you know, I'm not going to get a Nobel Prize for this stuff. But it's a kind of
and
a
you're
fun.
Not going to get rich.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm going to have. But you can have some fun.
Yeah.
In this case, you learn a lot about Russians and a lot about Russian history because I made this up. So Sasha Pearl's mother is a Russian dissident who was jailed and tortured by the Soviet authorities.
Wow.
And his grandfather is the hero of the Battle of Stalingrad. So there's a lot of little vignettes in there about the Battle of Stalingrad, because as far as Russians are concerned, it was what saved the whole world from the Nazis. And I have met I've met Russian Americans, and I've been to Russia, and I've actually met Russians, and they all think that that's true. It is they.
So you got a little history intertwined in there too.
A lot of little history stuff about, you know, and they really believe that they saved the world from the Nazis.
Wow.
And of course they lost a lot of people in the process. So, and that's part of what his mother always talks about, how Russians know how to suffer. Yeah. They've made great sacrifices for the world, and he comes from a family that sacrifices. So that's part of the story. So it's a little family saga, and there's always some kind of, somebody dies.
Now you have so many different things going. What made you decide to start writing a book?
I don't know. I mean, this is like I say, is my alter ego. Yeah. So I just, you know, wanted to write. I love mysteries. I read them. I read all kinds of mysteries. I watch the TV and the movies and all that kind of stuff about mysteries. So I love mysteries ever since I was a little kid and, you know, reading Nancy Drew. Oh, yeah. So I've always wanted to do mysteries. So and I mean, this one took me 10 years. Really? Yeah, from start to finish. So it took a long time. And you know, first of all, I did some history. I did some, you know, a little bit of researching. I kind of figured out who my characters were going to be. So when I first started, I thought, well, Sasha Pearl, well, I didn't name him Sasha Pearloff. I thought, well, could I do a woman as a woman? And I thought, no, I wanted the person to be a police officer. And the likelihood of having a Russian woman police officer was nil. Yeah. There aren't too many Russian...
Superwoman.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There aren't too many Russians in the New York City Police Department anyway. Right. So I thought I'd make him that. And then, of course, I do know that... So I wanted to make him a detective because otherwise he wouldn't be investigating potential murder cases. Yep. And usually the way up for a detective is through vice or narcotics. But I didn't want Sasha to have that. Sasha's rise to detective ranks has to do with the fact that he's like a liaison to a very large community within the city, and that's the Russian American community. I mean, he speaks fluent Russian, he speaks fluent German, and you know, so I made him, and I learned that many people in Russia, actually when they were in school in the Soviet system, they learned, of course, Russian, but they didn't learn English. They learned German. That was, you know, and of course in Europe, to this day, Germany and Russia are big trading partners. So there's that. And then I wanted a little bit of interest. So in Loose Ends, the characters go back to Stalingrad for the anniversary of the battle. And in Terror in Brooklyn, because it has a kind of Middle East flavor, the people go to Jerusalem. So I always like to bring in a little foreign touch. To you know, give them something, a little special spin. Yeah. You know, as a writer, we have to have a little spin. Yeah, what's the angle? What's the angle? Yeah. So the angle in Loose Ends is that it does talk about the Battle of Stalingrad, and also President Putin of Russia is kind of a minor character. Ah. So that's the spin on this one. The spin on this one is it talks about Jerusalem and what goes on in an ancient city like that. Oh, wow. And also there's the person who got murdered was kind of from an exotic Jewish under the Soviet system group. And so I provide a lot of information about these kinds of people who, when they came to America, they remade themselves, but not in a nice way. Yeah. They became linked with Colombian drug dealers. Oh, wow. So, so we have a murder, and there's a lot of potential groups who could be trying to kill this guy.
You have a vivid imagination.
I do. I do. I've been to
great.
Jerusalem. I've been to St. Petersburg, Russia. But when I really started writing these books, I had not been to either one of those places. So I just imagine what would it be like.
Yeah.
And again, this is fiction. This is not, you know,
Oh, yeah.
So what you read in loose ends about President Putin and the dialogue that he has with Sasha,
No, means nothing.
it's just what I think. And in Russia, we may laugh or get nervous about President Putin, but in Russia he is still very much beloved.
Yeah, he's still a big deal.
He is. He is.
That's the nice thing about writing. You can write about anything, and it's fiction.
Absolutely, yes.
But you got to convince people that yes, it's fiction, but you might not be.
you really might have an edge on there. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. So that's what happened.
And
in
that's
this
what
book.
makes the book good.
Yes.
I'm
Definitely.
reading one now called The Other Daughter. I'm about a quarter of the way through, and I'm still not quite sure exactly what's going on. Very interesting mystery.
Oh, good.
And
Good.
somebody gave it to me. It's just, I don't know, it's been out for years, I guess, but it said it was a good book. But it's interesting. And I do read a lot.
Of course.
With all the people that are on here, and I give me
Sure.
books, and I read and read. And I'm just getting so much up here, I don't have time to write.
Oh, no, you have to make time.
Oh,
You have
God.
to make time.
I've sat and started, I think I've got 3 books started.
Oh, okay.
And they're starting to mingle. I think they get on a computer and trade words with it. But it's right now I'm doing a program called Lost Loved Ones. Loved Ones Lost. Mm-hmm. And I started a web page, or not a web page, but a page on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And it's for people who have lost loved ones. Mm. They can come on my page, they can talk about their deceased, they talk about how they feel, and other people answer them. And it's a place to exchange ideas and thoughts, and so you don't feel so all alone. You've got somebody to talk to right there. And I started at the end of July, and now I have 94 members.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Wow, that's a lot of people. And we're going to have our first get-together on the 3rd Saturday of this month.
Wow.
We're actually going to get together and meet with different people that have lost people, and give everybody a face to look at and a voice and people to. I think it's a great idea, personally.
Yes,
You know.
that's true. I lost my mom last year, yes. And
I'm sorry,
so,
yeah.
I know exactly.
Yeah, and you lost.
Yes,
And it's-
she was old and she was not well, but death is final, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You
I don't
can't go
care how
back
old they
and
are.
yeah, exactly. You can't go back and try to redo things. It's too late.
No,
so
it's done. It's over.
It's it definitely. And what I've done is, I'm sure people talk about this. So there are things that she owned, which I now carry around with me.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Sure, you always got a little something. I just gave my grandson a guitar for Christmas. That was his father's. I've had the thing under my bed for 20 years.
Right.
And the look on his face, and he said, my dad's fingers were all over this guitar. I said, yes, there was. And he went, wow. I said, so it's a very personal thing that he's received.
Yes.
That he's thrilled to death with. I don't care if he doesn't play it.
Right.
It's his.
Right. Exactly.
So, but I know exactly what you mean. You got something that belongs to mom.
Well,
dad.
what happened was that my daughter brought her this little pocketbook because she wanted something very soft and something small. So she had it for a number of years, and then when she passed, I took it back. And then when my daughter sees me wearing it, she says, "Oh my God!" It's like it stays. It's going to carry on. It's now a family tradition to have this little pocketbook.
Absolutely.
So yeah, definitely.
So we're getting off track here now.
Yes.
So you got a number 3 coming?
Yes, I think I'm caught up in the stuff with the terrorism. So one of the things that makes Sasha Pearl interesting to the police department is that he does have a worldview of things, and he gets sort of caught up with the terrorism because it turns out one of the guys they're chasing is actually wanted by Interpol.
Huh.
So that gives an international flavor. So I think that and there's talk about him in Terror Brooklyn working with and this really does exist. There is a terrorism task force within the New York City Police Department. The New York City Police Department really feels that the FBI and the CIA and the United States government failed them at 9/11, and they are not trustworthy to be able to secure New York City's ongoing future. And so the New York City Police Department has created this huge terrorism network to try, because they still don't believe that the FBI, the CIA, or the United States government is going to save the people of New York when things happen. You know, we're talking about just before what happened in Paris with the journalists getting murdered. They don't believe that. So they have, and one of the things that you can see in Terror Brooklyn is New York City Police Department has a terrorism unit in Jerusalem.
Really?
And they have these terrorism units all over the world in hot places where they think the terrorists are going to come or where other people can get information. So they feel more comfortable sharing information with the Israeli terrorism people than waiting for the FBI, the CIA to tell them the information. So they want it directly. So,
and I can understand that they would feel that they know the city better than anybody.
That's right. Well, and they think that they make and the FBI is too big, and the CIA is too big. I mean, the New York City Police Department is large. The terrorism unit is not that large, but they figure they have a much better handle on what's going on. So the third book will take this idea of this terrorism unit and actually use Sasha to do some interrogations of people that the New York City Police Department picks up.
Wow.
So yes, so yeah, and again, some of it I do a little research, but in general, it's just what do I think might happen, and that's.
Does this keep you awake at night?
Sometimes in plotting the books, yes,
I know.
I
used to jump up and go, I better take this down because I remember.
Right, you don't want to forget it.
I'm in the kitchen and I'm thinking, I gotta think of this. By the time I got to the computer, I forgot. That's the problem with getting older. It's tough.
Well, you can have a recorder right by your bedside.
That's what I need, yeah.
Yes, and then you can record this stuff.
You're in there, you got this idea, and you start to go, and then all of a sudden you grab your glasses, or you grab something else, and you go, uh-oh.
Well, there's a lot of dialogue in my books because it's a policeman, and he's talking to lots and lots of people. So when I exercise, I actually talk the dialogue on the machine while out loud. My husband thinks I'm crazy. and then I practice the dialogue, and then after I've practiced it a while to kind of figure out if I've gotten what I want to have said, then I'll put it down on paper. So I do all kinds of, just like writers do all kinds of strange things.
As a matter of fact, I got a tape recorder for Christmas. My friend gave me a tape recorder because I've been talking about getting one, and so it's still in package. I got to unwrap it and put that in.
Absolutely, and put it right next to the bed.
Start carrying it around.
And when you get those gems that you, and because when you write, this from writing, you put a lot of stuff in and then you end up throwing it in the garbage.
Yeah.
Although sometimes I think I haven't, because in my memory still has the pieces I threw away. I think about, well, maybe I'll use it again some other way.
Yeah.
So I keep some of those little pieces in there.
It's like I read someplace that you're always trying to think of a title, and somebody had said the best thing to do is write down all the titles you can think of. If 2 weeks from now I'll get a different title, and then say, okay, now which one's going to fit my book?
Right.
And because sometimes you say, I got the great title, but then you go, oh wait a minute, I know another one. So you write them all down and go through them. And that's what I did with my Mystic book. I kept getting ideas.
Right.
But I couldn't complete an idea because I got another idea. So I typed that idea up, then go back to the other one, and I'm jumping all over the place, trying to get it all together.
Well, that's the creative process. Absolutely, absolutely. And you never know when you're going to come up with an idea.
No.
So like people would ask me, because I'm really interested in getting book clubs to come and invite me and read my books and stuff. So I've been to a couple of them. And people always say to you, well, when you start, especially a mystery, when you start a mystery, do you know in the beginning what the end is going to be? And I say, not really. Not really. I know there has to be a conclusion. So the case has to be resolved in some manner. But it could be vague. It could be vague. So both of them have vague endings in terms of because then I pick up the pieces and I continue, so that Sasha Pearl will always be the main character. And many of the people that are in book 1 are in book 2 and will continue on book 3 and, however more of these I write.
That's the thing, because if you leave something a little hanging out there, and they can pick it up in the next one.
Right.
And I talked to somebody that was saying that they hated to get to the end of a book, and sometimes they won't read the end because they don't want to put the book down, and because after that end, there's nowhere to go.
Right.
And I thought, a good point. And I used like James Patterson, and he uses a lot of the same characters all the time, so it's almost a continuing thing. And so that's why I like to read him, and I try to get him in order to whatever was first, so you can follow it through.
Right.
But a lot of the books, you read it, and it's over, and they go, now what? What happened to her? What happened to him? And so you need a sequel.
That's right. And in my head, I have, these are the first 2. I have 4 more.
Wow.
So I have, and Putin is in them, because, being Russian, you have to, I like that as a minor character.
Yeah.
And of course, always Sasha and his parents. And then he has a police partner from book 1, continues in book 2, Jimmy Sutton.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And I actually, and then what you do as a writer, I think, is you absorb all kinds of information, and then you never know when it's going to be interesting and you're going to use it.
Yeah.
So Jimmy Sutton's name, and I say this in the book, actually had a much longer Eastern European name. And the reason that his father is first-generation immigrant, changed the name is that he felt he was being discriminated against as if he was a Jew. So he changed, and that actually is based on a true story of somebody who I used to know, who told me that that's what his father did, because they weren't Jewish and they were always assumed to be Jews.
Wow. That's got a couple of minutes here. Anything else that you would like to tell us about?
No, I I hope people get an opportunity to read it. AnastasiaGoodman.weebly.com, and you can, you can buy it there. You can buy it on Amazon. There are lots of opportunities. And again, if you read it or you want something, you want the author to come and talk to the group, I'd love to talk. There's lots of aspects that make it interesting. It's about immigrants. It's about Russian Americans. Russians are always in the highlights. It's about a cop, and it's a sympathetic. He's a sympathetic cop, so that you walk away with knowing that it's not easy to be a cop. Some people hate you, and sometimes the people who hate you really, really need you.
Yeah.
So, one of the reasons why there is some of this tension is that cops are going into places where there's a lot of crime.
Oh, yeah.
So the people that they meet are the people that potentially could be the criminals. So a cop is always suspicious. That's part of their mindset.
Well, they have to be.
Exactly.
Because otherwise somebody will shoot them. On TV last night and the newspaper today, Andy Maynard was at Hartford swearing in.
Yes.
And I am so thrilled. And because everybody kept thinking that he may not be up there. But thank God, and his caretakers, he was there. And they were talking to him, and he's on the mend. And hopefully he's
and this studio
okay.
owes a great deal of gratitude.
Oh, absolutely.
To Andy Maynard.
Yeah, because Andy Maynard helped get a lot of money for this place.
Exactly.
And,
so we're ever grateful for him. He is one of those kinds of reps that does his constituent services.
Oh, he's a worker, and he believes in the people. And speaking of this studio, this is a public access TV. We depend on grants, and we depend on donations. And if you'd like to donate, we'd be happy to take your money. And it is tax-free. Yes. And stop in at the studio. We're here at Groton Shopping Plaza. And you stop in anytime and check out our new gigs. We've got everything's new in here. And it's beautiful.
It is a wonderful place.
It's a beautiful step. And my thanks to the two Franks.
Right.
And I forgot his name today.
Mitch.
Thank you, Mitch. And the two Franks that are here, and they put this all together. So say thank you. And got any questions, email me at santostom@comcast.net or visit my website, tomsantos.net. And I think that's about the size of the program here.
Okay, great.
And I think it's been great having you here again. And you're always such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Well, you're a delight. So
Oh.
yes, you are. We meet all in many ways, and it's always fun to see you.
Yeah, we've got Connecticut authors and publishers, and that's a tremendous program. So anyway, you should be reading Cuddle Up with a Good Book. And I'll see you next week. Thank you.